Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Vimbai Muchinhiri Ekpeyang. Good morning, Vimbai. Looks like you are in Abuja, right?
Good morning, Doctor. I am in Abuja. We decided to do a little dirty December in different parts of Nigeria with my mom visiting from Zimbabwe. So good morning, Ayo. I wish you a speedy recovery. I've got the same flu you have. Good morning,
gosh, you understand. Thank you so much, Vimbai. And I'm so glad your mom is around. Please show her the Nigerian hospitality, our signature hospitality.
Vimbai.
I certainly will do so. I certainly.
Yes. A little bird told me that mom brought like 3-4 luggages. You've not debriefed me on what she brought.
Don't worry, implications are coming from Zimbabwe.
Did she bring Zimbabwean beef?
No, she didn't, but we'll take that conversation offline, Rufai. Okay. Don't worry, plenty of goodies for you. Let's get straight into the world brief today. And we begin with holiday disruptions in Europe, as Eurostar passengers are braced for a potential second day of disruption. This is after a power outage in the Channel Tunnel caused travel chaos for thousands of people on Tuesday who were scheduled to travel between London, Paris, Amsterdam, and Brussels. Now, some travelers spent hours stuck on board trains overnight as they waited for them to move. Now, a problem with the overhead power supply and a broken down Le Shuttle train blocked all routes, causing disruption for thousands trying to get away for New Year's Eve. Now, some Eurostar and Le Shuttle services resumed on Tuesday evening after one of the tunnel's 2 lines reopened, but delays continue. This disruption is occurring at the height of winter travel on one of Europe's busiest international rail corridors. Now, the Eurostar cautioned travelers to expect significant delays and last-minute cancellations, and in some instances strongly advised holidaymakers to completely reschedule their trips. The operator has declined to comment on how many people have been affected by these disruptions. However, at St. Pancras International Train Station in London, congestion remained very heavy. Same goes in Paris as well. Now, you know, these are the kind of disruptions that normally ruin somebody's transition into the new year. And it's not just in Nigeria. It happens all around the world where sometimes things just do go wrong. However, while we're talking about people traveling, let's talk about a different type of travel, this time closer to home for me, as the South African National Defence Force, that's SANDF, has intercepted more than 1,100 undocumented foreign nationals trying to gain entry into the country. Now, they were specifically Zimbabweans. This interception of Zimbabwean nationals was made along the Groblersdal Bridge border post. That's outside Lephalale in Limpopo. Now, during the interception, a South African National Defence Force member was wounded by an aggressive undocumented foreign national, but the aggressor was subdued. It is reported that he actually tried to stab the soldier. Well, the defense member received treatment at the scene, and the undocumented foreign nationals were handed over to the police for processing. The spokesperson for the South African Defence Force, Captain Moses Semono, said that they are facing a new dilemma, specifically during Christmas Eve and the Day of Goodwill, as they have never been faced by such a massive influx during this time of the year. Over the years, the South African government has created various visa programs to regularize the stays of hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants from their northern neighbor, that's from Zimbabwe, who cross the border effectively on a daily basis. Official numbers reflect that over 245,000 people have been beneficiaries of what is now known as the Zimbabwe Exemption Permit. But statistics and, of course, just lived reality do show us that that is a very small fraction of the broader Zimbabwean diaspora that's residing in South Africa, both legally and illegally. The biggest drivers, of course, being cost of living challenges in Zimbabwe and, of course, improved prospects of employment in South Africa. Now, we round up the World Brief today by taking a trip to New York. While others will be spending their New Year's Eve possibly trying to migrate or trying to travel, Zoran Mamdani will be doing it in a different way. Now, while tens of thousands of New Yorkers will be in Times Square for the countdown to 2026, Excuse me. We've all got a little bit of a flu. The city's mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani has said he will be sworn into office in an underground midnight private ceremony at an abandoned subway station built during the Gilded Age. Mamdani plans to take the oath of office on New Year's Eve in a disused subway station beneath City Hall that acts as a turnaround for the local 5 train. The unusual choice of venue for the ceremony, Mamdani said, is symbolically resonant of the inauguration of what he's calling a new era. Excuse me, my goodness. The station was first opened in 1904 as one of the city's 28 original stations and was decommissioned in 1945 as the system was modernized. It was designated a New York City landmark in 1979 and put on the National Register of Historic Places in 2004. The New York Attorney General, Letitia James, has been selected to administer Mamdani's oath of office with a follow-up ceremony on the steps of City Hall later on Wednesday, where he will be sworn in by the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, followed by a block party up Broadway. Mamdani is coming into office during an extremely polarized era in American politics, and the agenda ahead for him is daunting as parties prepare to head to midterms. Only one previous New York mayor, that's Bill de Blasio, a progressive Democrat, has confirmed his attendance, with former mayors Mike Bloomberg and Rudy Giuliani not publicly confirming if they will show up. Now, outgoing centrist Democrat Mayor Eric Adams has left his attendance open to question. I'm going to throw back to the studio very briefly. I need to do the newspaper review, but I need to take a little bit of water to just appease this cough. So, Rufai Ayo, Dr. Abati, your comments on the World Brief before we...
I mean, very symbolic what Mamdani is doing, going back to the Gilded Age. And if you remember the Gilded Age, that was when America had, a lot of progress and development. We keep talking about the hands that build America, the Carnegies of this world, the Vanderbilts of this world, the James Pierpont Morgans of this world, the Hills of this world, and they go on and on and on. And that was the height of industrial, development. And Mamdani has been trying as much as possible to be one of, the best mayor ever in New York, and the likes of LaGuardias of this world that did so well when he was mayor. And it's very symbolic. And even Letitia James, that is going to administer, these were people that stood with Mamdani when everybody never believed in Mamdani. I also see that Bernie Sanders is going to play a role there. These are people that really did stand with Mamdani. And when you also look at it, I am not surprised that other mayors are not going to be there. They never liked him, obviously. Only Bill de Blasio was sympathetic towards him while the race went on. So congratulations to Bill for coming there. But it doesn't matter. The most important thing is, how will will Mamdani be able to take New York back? To the glories of the Gilded Age, which I think it's almost far gone. I don't think that kind of wealth, will be able to come again. Anyway, if you compare in tech terms, you say the tech billionaires are like the Gilded Age of today, but that time where you had a lot of prosperity, you had the likes of the Astors of this world. I doubt if we were able to do it with all of this socialist plan. But let's see how it pans out. Affordability has always been a cry everywhere. How can you reduce costs? He's said a lot of very bold things. Like they say, former mayor of New York, Mario Cuomo will say, we campaign in poetry and govern in prose. So he's done on the campaigning in poetry. Now is the time to do the governing in prose. So the first 6 months, let's say it pans out. Maybe at the end of the year, people might be calling for Mamdani's head or might be saying kudos to him for the job well done. But he needs to fix affordability crisis. But congratulations to Mamdani.
All right, so where will you be on New Year's Eve? Usually New Year's Eve, on a day like this, we see disruptions to travel plans, and that's not different even in Europe with Eurostar, like you reported, Wimbai, following the number of travelers. Yesterday, most of the traffic was cancelled, most of the transportation, rail travels was cancelled, and today, this morning, some have been restored, but not all, a number of them from London. And so you can see that disruption. Last year was the snow that disrupted travel in different countries, particularly in North America. And so it's just interesting to see that across the world, while we're talking about flight delays and cancellations here in Nigeria, we're talking about increase in hike in airfares, we see that across the world there's usually a disruption to transport services around this time. And it just gives an opportunity for us to see that even in the most developed of worlds, of countries, you cannot move away from some of these disasters from happening, or from these disruptions from happening. In London, very specifically, there have been accusations or reports of cable thefts causing or contributing to the delays as well. So I say this because you can see the Nigerian context where we look at people stealing from rail tracks, rails, the steels and irons, and that's also from Doncaster to Sheffield. There have been delays and disruptions on that line as a result of cable thefts there. So just to see what's happening around the world, I know that the first country to usher in 2026 will be happening around 11 a.m. Nigerian time. We'll bring you all the reports here on Arise News. And just to say that people are getting ready. You will see some of these signs, these signals around travel disruptions. Just to mention, if you're traveling today, plan well, plan ahead, whether in Nigeria, London, Paris, Amsterdam, anywhere in the world, just to ensure that you're not disturbed by the disruptions on travel plans.
Okay. By 10 a.m. GMT, 11 a.m. West African time, it will be New Year in Samoa, the capital city of Apia. And so the New Year is significant for a lot of people. And in the case of Mamdani, he wants to have a private ceremony at 12 midnight New York time, which will be about 6 p.m. West African time. And the person who will do that, administering the oath of office, will be Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, and his family members will be there. That's supposed to be a private ceremony. As you have pointed out, there will be the inauguration, where Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a Democratic member of the House of Congress, would, make a statement, and then the inauguration, the formal swearing-in will be done by Bernie Sanders, and that's understandable. These are persons who had endorsed Mamdani, 34 years old, so it's a historic moment. The old City Hall substation with the City Hall upstairs, it's a hack back, as Mamdani himself has said, to this tradition of the working class. Because after all, he's a Democrat socialist, and he says he wants to take New York away from the billionaires into the hands of the working people. However, what he has promised, free buses, freezing rent, how will he be able to achieve that? But it is just as well that on New Year's Day, tomorrow, when he takes office, President Trump, who is also a New Yorker, has said that he will support him, they can work together, after calling him, a communist, trying to grab power. So it's a very major development in the city of New York, particularly as this new mayor was able to upstage Andrew Cuomo, who lost the Democratic primary to him and then decided to run as an independent. And even in the election, he was able to trounce him. So that's that about New York. Zimbabwe, I would like to spend a few minutes on that. I think there's a touch of irony that Zimbabweans are now going in droves, either through the Bettridge port or the Limpopo port or the Limpopo highway, or people just crossing to go into South Africa. The irony that I talk about is that in the 1980s, when South Africa gained independence, if you like, end of apartheid. Now, the South Africans were interested in Zimbabwean labor in the public sector. A lot of South Africans went there to teach in the schools, to trade, to be nurses in the South African system. And then, of course, over time, that changed. When Zimbabwe began to have issues, hyperinflation, political crisis under Robert Mugabe, now, the next generation of people who started going were people going to be domestic helps in Cape Town, and also people selling chicken on the streets of Johannesburg. And over time, the South Africans, became a bit more educated, and they began to see not just the people from Zimbabwe as a threat, but also from the people from Malawi and Mozambique. And you had that rise of xenophobia. So what you now find, the Border Management Authority and the South African Defense Forces doing is what is called Operation Lupudra. Operation Force Them Out, because it looks like other people from other African states are now threatening them. So if Zimbabwe gets its acts right and is able to solve its own domestic problems, maybe there will not be too many people from Zimbabwe running to Botswana, running to South Africa, and running to other places. So it's about governance, basically. But I don't. I'm not necessarily sympathizing with you, Vimbai. This is the challenge that Africans generally face as a result of a crisis of good governance and leadership. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Dr. Abati, very well said. I mean, I think I speak for all Africans when we say we just want our countries to work. That is all. Nobody wakes up in the morning and wants to japa. Well, there are some, but generally we want our nations to work. Now, let's quickly move on to the newspaper review, as of course we've spent quite a lot of time on the World Brief. And the biggest story on the front pages of all the newspapers, of course, is naturally the issue around tax that has been unpacked in great detail this morning. However, one small irony that stood out to me is that there was a reference made to social contract. However, at this point, this statement was released from an undisclosed location. So, when we speak of social contract, we also want our leaders to be accountable of where they are and how they're spending taxpayers' money in whatever location of the world they may be in. But let's look at what else is leading on this day. Of course, we kick off with this day with yesterday's developments. Former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami's fraud case, as he, his wife, and his son were denied bail and will cross over into 2026 from Kuje prison. Of course, many continue to vocalize statements that this case is politically motivated. However, we still stand to see how it will all play out. Now, beneath that headline is this terribly tragic news here from the media community, as 7 journalists died and 4 were injured due to a car crash in Gombe. And so we do commiserate with them. We wish those who survived a speedy recovery. May the souls of the departed rest in peace. Finally, at the very bottom, we have this lovely image of the youthful royals, His Royal Majesty Ogiame Atuashe III and his ever stylish wife Olori Ivie Atuashe III paid a visit to the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu. That was yesterday. Let's head over to New Telegraph. New Telegraph delves into the news that Lagos State government has opted to cancel the traditional annual Greater Lagos Fiesta, encouraging Lagosians to rather spend that time in solemn prayer for the nation and the state. Not sure how that will go down with people who've traveled for Dirty December. The front page also gives a deep dive into security news as the Nigerian military recover boosters from the airstrikes in Sokoto, Kebbi, and Offa. Now, this is coming as Amotekun arrested 39 alleged fleeing terrorists that were found in Ondo State. We quickly go to the Vanguard and we shift our attention to Vanguard for politics. Today marks D-Day as Peter Obi, as you see at the top, and the Obedience will become card-carrying members of the ADC. The venue set for this symbolic declaration is Enugu, and leader of the Obedient movement, Yunusa Tanko, says they've chosen the coal city instead of Oka, Anambra State, which is, of course, the former governor's home state, because they say the city is the historical capital of the East, and as his words, it makes a bolder historical statement. We still wait to see whether how things will play out, though, when the primaries for ADC take place, because many still speculate that Abubakar Atiku has a firm grip on the ADC. Now to Punch. Punch still keeping in touch with politics, as Punch newspaper reports that Rivers lawmakers at the bottom there, that they rejected Governor Siminalayi Fubara's Christmas gift of 100,000 naira that was credited to their bank accounts. They described it as unsolicited and unlawful. And they say that this exposes how irresponsibly the governor is allegedly handling the finances of the state. Also attached to that story, Nisam Wike has predictably opposed an automatic ticket for the 2027 gubernatorial seat, stating that Rivers State will not repeat any mistakes. Excuse me. Finally, the paper reports that some family members are demanding access to Anthony Joshua. That's here, fatal crash. Family demands access to Joshua as FRSC awaits probe report. And now the paper quotes an uncle named Ademola Joshua, who says that he only received the news of the car crash from friends and well-wishers, but that he has yet been able to give an access to the boxer. Now, let's look at the UK papers because they're still focusing on Anthony Joshua. The Daily Mirror reports that his mum is by his bedside as family and friends rally around him. Even Tyson Fury has sent well wishes. So it's interesting to see some relatives are saying we don't have access, but the Daily Mirror is reporting that he is with his mum. Now, finally, the Sun newspaper, also in the UK, reports that AJ is in pain all over his body as he will be spending New Year's Eve in hospital. The report from the Sun states that he is still in excruciating pain as he battles for his recovery, as he will be doing throughout New Year's Eve. So we continue to send our well wishes to him, wish him a speedy recovery. And of course, we commend the doctors and the Nigerian hospitals that are ensuring that he gets the absolute best world-class treatment. That's all we have from the newspapers for today.
Well, thank you very much, Vimbai. Happy New Year in advance. We'll see you again tomorrow.